Okay, so I wanted to make a video to talk about Challenge Roth, kind of the build up to the race and everything that happened at the race, just to have kind of a record of it. So um, I don't know when I made the last check-in, but it was a long time ago. I think it was just leading up to my big day and just before my trip to Japan. So um, yeah, leading up to that, I did a big day right before Japan. I did 6 hours of training, maybe 7 hours of training. It was a long day, kind of all back to back, and I used that to test my nutrition. That went super well. Um, and then I went off to Japan for about 17 days, um, which was good. The trip was awesome, but it definitely affected my training a little bit more than I expected it to. I kind of redid the previous 2 weeks of training once I returned, um, but it wasn't perfect still. There was some issues with motivation once I was back, and just issues with getting the sessions done that I wanted to do. I think part of that challenge too was that the training was being done outside on the bike now. I wasn't able to hit the same power numbers that I was inside. So that was a little bit upsetting and demotivating as well. Um, and then, kind of just as I was getting back into the swing of things, moving into May, as a reminder, Challenge Roth was on July 7th. So just as I was really getting back into things, feeling good about it again, I started to have some issues. Starting with running, I had done like 3 weeks of doing a half marathon for my long run in a row. And for whatever reason, to this day, I'm still not really sure why, but on this last day, I had some knee pain on that race or on that last run. And it really didn't go away for a long time. I got some physio for it, and did some work to try and get it better. But that was my peak run, was 21 kilometers about 2 months out from my race, which really sucked and that really affected things. I think it did start to get better towards when I was getting close to race time. But I think my longest run, like in the close vicinity to the race, was only 11 kilometers. So that definitely had an impact and was going to be affecting my run time, no doubt. And then I was kind of compensating the running issues with more biking. Figured I could at least get the cardio in. And, biking fitness doesn't transfer perfectly to running, but it does something, right? So I started doing some of that. And then my bike had issues. I changed out the chain on my bike, and I don't know. I lined up the length, so I don't think it was too long. I know I put it on the right way, like the right direction and everything, but something went awry there. And the chain split. I was using these new quick links. I don't know, maybe that was the issue. So the chain split, it swung around, it broke off my derailleur, and then my bike was out of commission for quite a while. I want to say 2 to 3 weeks. And that was kind of right in the peak of my training plan. And that I couldn't substitute running distance still. My knee was still messed up. So that was really challenging. So my longest bike, I did do a 6 hour bike, like a 180 kilometer bike. But that was more than a month out from the race. And yeah, then once my bike got working again, there wasn't much turnaround time to when I had to leave for the race. And obviously, I needed some taper time as well. So I kind of got it back right around that taper time and took it out for a couple hour rides, but nothing too intense. So yeah, the last kind of couple months leading up to the race were much less than ideal, unfortunately. But nevertheless, I was going. So we went to Germany 2 days before the race. The race was on the 7th, Sunday, and I arrived on the 5th, Friday. I think in hindsight, it would have been nice to be there like an extra day early, but it was still okay. It's just it would have been nice to have like one extra day of proper rest, because yeah, like I didn't really get proper rest because the first night is the first night after traveling, right? And then the next night, yeah, I got to sleep, but also I had to wake up at like I can't remember what it was. It was like 4 a.m., maybe 3:30 a.m. It was very, very early. So as far as fueling and stuff leading up to it, I actually think that was decent. I was eating lots of carbs, didn't have anything upset my stomach, anything like that. So fueling leading up to the race was pretty good. Moving on to race day. So like I said, started the morning very good, or very early. Had my breakfast. Probably should have had more at breakfast. When I was kind of kicking around waiting for my start time, I was starting to get actually kind of decently hungry. So I definitely should have ate more at breakfast. Maybe I should have brought some food with me to the starting line to just have while I'm hanging around. So I'll definitely be making some sort of change there. Even just like a banana with me would have been great. Plus you get your potassium and stuff like that too, right? Race day was beautiful. The weather was amazing, like perfect weather. There was course records set on the day by I think both the men and the women. Yeah, it was crazy. Like 22 degrees, I think, and basically no wind, like 3 or 5 kilometer an hour winds. It was gorgeous, gorgeous days. So my goal going into the race was an hour 15 for the swim, 6:15 for the bike, and then 4:15 for the marathon would have been good. I would have been pretty happy with that, especially considering how scuffed my running training was leading up to that. That goal might have been a little bit optimistic all around, but throwing in 15 minutes for transitions, that brings me to about a 12-hour goal time. So I don't know if that would have happened even if things went well, but that was kind of my optimistic goal. So really, I was just there to complete it. I knew that the couple months leading up to the race hadn't been ideal, and I'd kind of adjusted my expectations accordingly. So yeah, there was a decent amount of nerves going into it, but like I still felt confident that I could get things done. I was definitely conscious of the running issues I had and the lack of preparation there. So my plan was to make sure that I have plenty of gas left in the tank for when I do that run. So the swim, the plan was to take it very easily, treat it like a warm-up, and then the bike, definitely don't casually pedal, but definitely don't over push things. Really wanted to make sure that I was showing up at that marathon with a lot of gas left in the tank. On my previous 6-hour bikes and training, like I got off and I was cooked, like my legs were cooked. I definitely didn't want that to be happening. So I was intentionally letting off the gas a little bit. So yeah, I started just after 7 o'clock, I think. and the swim went really well. To be honest, I barely had to sight. It's a very straight swim. You turn around, then you go straight down the canal again, one more turn around, and then go into the finish line, or the swim end. So very straightforward swim. So I really didn't sight. I just found various pairs of feet. I tickled a lot of people's toes. And yeah, I really just kind of coasted in the swim. That was kind of my goal. I reminded myself of that throughout, but I think it worked out really well. I accomplished exactly what I was hoping to on that swim. So again, my goal was 1:15 for that swim. I ended up finishing in 1:16, with a pretty low average heart rate of 145 beats per minute. So yeah, really kind of just coasted through the swim exactly like I planned. T1, I, got out of the water, stripped off the wetsuit, found my stuff. This one I did in 10 minutes and 38 seconds. So I think there's definitely a bit of room for improvement on that. I probably could have shaved off a couple minutes just between maybe organizing stuff a little bit better, moving with a bit more urgency, and spending less time like drying myself off. I'm also wondering maybe I can apply the chamois cream like directly to the bike or to the bike shorts. Of course, I could always do like a tri-suit or something, but for a full Ironman, I'd rather spend the extra, 45 seconds, whatever it is, to be able to change into proper bike shorts and be comfortable on the bike. So yeah, I think I will practice that T1 a little bit more, like I guess kind of test what I'm comfortable with. For instance, like, how much do I need to dry off? Am I gonna regret if I don't towel off at all, and get into my bike shorts when I'm wet, put on socks when I'm wet, etc. So I'm gonna play around with that a bit going into my next event. So and then yeah, I'm onto the bike. The bike starts off well. I see my family, see my girlfriend pretty early, and then I'm off, and I really get to settle into a strong rhythm. My nutrition, like I kind of planned out what I'm gonna get at all the aid stations, so everything's mostly going according to plan. I think I got confused on one of the orders, but nothing major. I knew what I was doing, and things were coming together on the bike. I did the first 45 kilometers in 97 minutes, which is definitely slower than intended, but to be fair, that the last 10 kilometers there were uphill. They were very slow. They were kind of a slog. So I did, prior to that, I did 35K in 70 minutes, which puts me on pace for a 6-hour time. Yeah, it's just unfortunate that after that first 45 kilometers is where I had an issue. Basically, we crested the Gretting Hill, which is a super long hill, super long climb, and then start working our way down. I'm going down, feeling great, overtaking some people on the descent, trying to stay aero, and then boom, my tire pops, which sucks. All the training that I did, I never had to change a flat tire on the bike. I had changed some tires while I was, at home, but nothing on the side of the road. But still, I felt somewhat prepared. Those tires on my bike are super, super stubborn. So I was a little nervous about whether I'd be able to accomplish everything. But yeah, I did. I got off the bike, I pulled off the tire, started putting in a new tube. Thankfully, a support team did come and help me. Although I had gotten a pretty good start on it already, I felt pretty good about myself. and yeah, started changing things. But unfortunately, even though we got the tire changed, put it back on, or pumped it back up, then we found another issue. So first off, we realized that the outer tire is actually ripped. And this roaming support team doesn't have any other tires. So um, womp womp, like, yeah, that sucks. But it's not all terrible. There's another aid station a few kilometers ahead. We can kind of half pump it up, and I can gingerly go to the aid station, get a new tire, and I'm on my way, right? So we go put the tire back on the bike, and the alignment is off. And this is really where the big problem is. So we take a closer look at the tire, or at the wheel, and see that one of the spokes is broken. So one of those spokes must have broken, and it punctured the tire, and that's what caused the flat. So this is a pretty big issue. If I'm trying to walk the bike, that tire just locks up. There's no room for it to move. So it's really not rideable, especially not for a long race. So I don't fully know what to do at this point, but I'm still really determined. So the decision is like, hey, 5 to 10 kilometers ahead, there's this aid station mechanic that might be able to help you out. So I go there. I walk the rest of the way down the hill because I don't think it's really safe to even get on the bike with the wheel locking up like that. And yeah, so I walk down in my bike shoes, and then at the bottom of the hill, then I hop on the bike again, and I start biking a little bit, pretty slowly, but I do bike, and I get over to the mechanic finally. This was all after probably killing an hour or so with all of these issues, but I make it all the way to the mechanic. Then the mechanic starts to help with the bike, but he doesn't have the tools he needs. And basically he can't do anything to fix it. I spend a long time there. He tries a few different things. We almost get it to work, but at one point we were saying, like, we'll just take out the brakes in the back, and then hopefully we don't rub on that, and we can get the bike going. But it seemed like no matter what, however he adjusted it, the tire would be catching on the frame at some point. And so basically it wasn't rideable for the whole race. He said, if I do continue to ride it, probably will end up totaling the frame. It's a safety hazard, also will wreck your bike, which I don't really want to do. So that was really tough. I felt really hopeless, and really devastated. Yeah. It's hard, because I worked on that race for, well, since even the previous summer. Like I had started training, right? And the goal was always to do an Ironman distance race. That was really what I wanted to accomplish. So yeah, like there was 8 months of specific training for this race, but it goes beyond that. It goes into the year before even. So there was a lot that I put into that race, and it was really tough, and it felt like it was really unfair. that, I've never had issues with my bike, and then um, all of a sudden this, it ruins my training, and then it ruins my race itself. It was really tough. Devastating is the best way to put it. So yeah, I hang out at the aid station there for a long time, and ultimately the decision is made that I'm gonna have to drop out of the race. There's no way for me to finish it. So some friendly German spectators across the road offer me a beer, and I take it. Why not at this point? So I have my beer and have a little cry on the on the side of the road. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough for sure. One of the toughest things I've had to deal with. But as I was waiting for the sweeper van to come pick me up, I guess they send out vans that come pick up people who couldn't finish for one reason or another. Another biker comes up to the mechanic and says that he wants to drop out as well. I guess he had fallen, was just feeling a little banged up, and didn't want to keep going. So I talked with him a bit, and as we're talking, I'm kind of eyeing up his bike, and then I asked the question like, "Hey, is your bike an 11-speed bike?" And he's like, "Yeah, why?" And basically, I ask him if I can steal his wheel, and try and finish the race. And thankfully, this guy is so nice. I'm so grateful to this guy, and he agrees. So we switch over the wheels quick, and I get his contact info for after the race and say, I'll see you after the race. I'm gonna go try and finish this. So just like that, I went from devastation to feeling euphoric. Like, I was crushed, but now I'm back. The dream is back. Like, it's possible again. Sure, I lost a lot of time, but whatever, like I can finish the race. And that felt amazing. So then I bike, and do the rest of the 45 kilometers, for the first loop of the bike course. And kind of in the back of my mind, I know that there's probably a cutoff for this first loop of the bike, so I'm trying to go a little bit faster. I make it. I see the turnoff for the, like, hey, turn here if you're on your second lap, go left if you're on your first lap. And I think I made it. I go past that turnoff, and I just feel so happy. I'm crying like tears of joy. I'm like, fuck yeah, like I made it. I didn't get cut off. And then another few hundred meters up the road, there's a whole cordon, a whole line basically saying, so I pull up, I stop, and they say like, yeah, we cut this off about 15 minutes ago, 10-15 minutes ago. At this point, you're disqualified from the race. Which again was really tough. I try and plead with the guy, like, I'm pulling out all the strings. I'm like, like, my bike broke. It's my birthday. Like, please, just let me keep going. And ultimately, he says, like, yeah, there's nothing he can do. I'm disqualified from the race, which is tough, but understandable. But then he says, well, you can keep biking if you want. It's just you're going to be disqualified from the race. So I am into that. I tell him, yeah, I'm gonna keep going. Like, doesn't matter what the official time says. If it says I DNF'd, doesn't matter. What really matters is in my heart and knowing that I finished the race. So I hop back on my bike, and I'm feeling good again. I'm biking. I go through one aid station that's kind of packing down, and they load me up with a little bit of stuff, a couple or one bottle and some gels. So I get some stuff, and then after that, it's pretty much silence. It's weird on a race, especially Roth. That first loop, it seems that there's always people there. The amount of support at this race is crazy. All the locals come out. Everyone is there. And then that's such a contrast to the second lap that I have all by myself. There's the odd person still kicking around, but basically everyone is gone. And on top of that, the course is no longer closed. So there's no more aid stations. There's traffic on the road. And there's also no markings about where you should be going. I kind of remembered, but I ended up biking, and I ended up getting lost twice, which had some serious consequences. I ended up finding my way back onto the course, but it definitely cost me a lot of time and a lot of effort. One of these times I got lost, I ended up going up probably like a 20, 30 degree slope. It was so tough. Like I was on the bike, and I was pushing 400 plus watts, and I was moving at like a granny's pace. It was miserable. So I ended up getting off the bike and walking up, and then continuing on. But yeah, basically I kept going, and basically finished the bike. I saw my family again around, I think like 170 kilometers in. At that point, I stopped the bike, and I got off, and I said, hey, I think the writing's kind of on the wall here, and I think my race is over. Which was tough to accept. But between getting lost, between all the time I lost, the fact I had no nutrition, it just felt like the race was too far gone. So it was tough, but ultimately I ended up deciding to stop. And it's something I look back on still, and really wrestled with a lot. Is I don't know if I really made the right decision there. I think it really would have been, a testament to my character if I was able to keep going and finish that race despite everything that happened in the months leading up to it, and especially on the day. But I ended up deciding to stop. I don't think I was in too much, physical pain yet. I definitely still had gas left in the tank, and I definitely could have kept going, but I was pretty worried, with no nutrition, how I would be feeling going into the run. I don't know if I would have been accepted at T2, and with the limited amount of running training I had done, I thought that there was serious potential for that run to really mess up my knee, and really ruin the rest of the trip, especially with just all the exhaustion that would have built up to that. And in hindsight too, I didn't really realize it at the time, but when I got lost and had that super steep hill, I tried to push on the bike, and then I ended up having to get off and walking it up. I think I like pulled a muscle there or something too, because there was a really tender part of my leg for quite a while, and I had a big bruise on my calf. So I think, I don't know. I still think I could have done it. Would have been slow, might not have been the right decision to actually do it, but I think I could have. And that's something I've struggled a bit with and regretted, because I feel like I had that opportunity to do it, and I didn't. So I guess time will tell if I made the right decision. Well, no, time won't really tell. I guess I'll never know. But what's really important to me from this race is that I knew I could do it. I knew I could finish that race. Even if things weren't ideal leading up to the race, I knew, like, if everything that happened on race day didn't happen, I knew I could have finished that race. So I did gain that confidence. But yeah, I mean, really, the whole day was just a roller coaster. You know, I went from super happy with my swim, my bike, starting out feeling great, feeling like so excited that I'm doing this. I guess even before the race, you know, I'm like nervous, a little bit excited, and then upsetting, obviously, with the bike. Upsetting, leading down to devastating when I realized I was, you know, it wasn't just a flat tire and I was actually out of the race. And then feeling great again, just euphoric, absolutely euphoric when I realized that I could still race. And then devastating again when I realized I was cut off, and then hopeful again once I realized I could keep going, and then ultimately kind of just coming into terms with the fact that I don't think it was I didn't think it was the right decision to keep going. So yeah, there was a lot of emotions going on there that day. And I think I definitely grew as a person from it. But yeah, overall, definitely a very disappointing day.